Hey. Hey, y'all. Welcome to Casseroles and Tacos podcast. This is Katie, and I'm the casseroles half of the team. I'm usually serving up casseroles from Middle Tennessee, but as y'all probably know, we've hit the road. Our family has. And we are parked today in Richmond, Virginia.
Well, that's exciting, Katie. And I'm Andrea, usually serving up tacos in California, but it's been a whole lot of casseroles lately. So you and I both shifting things, shaking things up around here. But it's good to be back with our friends. It's good to have some time to chat. It's been a couple weeks, and we're excited to check in with everyone, see how everyone's doing. And Katie, I'm so excited to hear what you're up to. I want to hear what's going on in your life, the latest and greatest. Let's all live vicariously through you for a moment and hear what's going on with you.
Be careful what you ask for, the vicarious living and all. But,
I know.
This is our, I don't even know, third week on the road. Yeah. Give or take, third week or so. And we are currently at the home of Andrea, one of our mutual friends, Laurie Rogers. And for those of our friends out there or listeners who follow us on Instagram and she is Live, Love, Sing on Instagram. And so we have her here with us today, actually. And we want to talk about something here in a minute. But yeah, she's been very gracious, her and her family, Stanley, her husband, her family, they've been very gracious and hospitable to us. So that's where we are this week. So let's go ahead and welcome Laurie. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Laurie. I'm so excited about this.
You know what? I really think a lot of our listeners, because, a lot of our listeners also, we all follow each other on Instagram. So this is going to be exciting for many of our friends out there as well. So that's
Absolutely.
Good. Yeah. So we're staying this week, just right near their home. And we'll tell you a little bit about that here in a little bit, where we're staying. But, I believe, Andrea, we were talking the other night, you and Laurie and I, we were talking about hospitality, and that just seems to be a common passion with all three of us, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite topics ever. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. And I know that a lot of the time I'm kind of in the minority with that. It's not exactly the most commonly discussed or even respected or honored thing in our society these days. We don't often think about hospitality the way we used to. And so I think it's something that is so exciting to talk about, because wouldn't you just love to see a hospitality revival? You know what I mean?
Honestly, that would, we always talk about unity and unity around the table, Andrea, and wouldn't that just peace on earth is what comes to mind when you say that to me. If we had a hospitality revival, there would just be just so much more unity. So yes, I agree with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, it would be the most delicious revolution that ever took place.
Right. But, some people might be listening thinking, what in the world are you talking about? I mean, honestly. So let's think about the person. Let's invite the person to the table today who may not understand what in the world does hospitality mean? What in the world are y'all talking about? Why should I care? Well, Laurie, what do you think? Hospitality in just a general, for somebody who may not have grown up sharing the dinner table with friends or family or church folks or whatever, what do you think? What is the meaning of hospitality for somebody out there who's kind of wondering, what in the world are you talking about?
Well, I Googled it this morning.
Okay, cool. Well, that's convenient. Good.
Yes, I wanted to see what the definition was. And in the Noah Webster 1828 dictionary, it says that hospitality is the act or practice of receiving and entertaining strangers or guests without reward or with kind and generous liberality. So you don't have to necessarily know the person. Mm-hmm. I would, in these days, be cautious about having someone in your home that you don't know. But I think even hospitality goes beyond having them into your home and being willing to help someone wherever you are.
That's true. That's true. I have had someone commented to me not long ago that she felt like the only the only way to show true hospitality in its true maybe biblical sense was to have people in your home. But
Right.
but I kind of beg to differ with that, and I guess we can have different opinions on that. Because it's not always feasible to bring the person into your home, but I can still show hospitality with, the word. Now this may be, maybe this Latin derivative. I don't know, but the word hospital is in that word,
Right.
and ministering to, and so forth.
Right.
So, that's a great definition. Wouldn't you agree with that, Andrea?
I love when she said without reward.
Yes.
In my California mind, I went, boom, without reward, boom. That's what it is. That's the root of it right there. Without reward, it's selfless. It's not for you. It's for someone else. And it's in love. And it's so important. And I totally agree with you that it does not have to be in your home. And all three of us, fun fact, this is a new thing for us on this podcast. Right. All three of us have lived in an RV. So we all know that sometimes you're extending hospitality in someone else's home, right? Because your home is just too darn small to do it.
Right.
Yes.
So, right.
If you're parked somewhere, there's a way of extending your home, as small as it may be, to someone else, just as a matter of gratitude or friendship or fellowship or what have you. And I like to call it reverse hospitality.
Yeah.
Where I've had to take something and, admit, maybe the location for the hospitality somewhere other than my home.
Right.
And I think it's not only possible, I think it's incredibly important.
Right. And so it is possible to show hospitality, to be kind to others without doing it at your table, because you're right. Well, and just to clarify for those of you who are new, so actually you two ladies, Laurie and Andrea, you aren't currently on the road. You're not currently living in an RV. Our family has just started doing so. So I guess Laurie's got the most experience here among the three of us, but, and your family, Laurie, traveled around and was the recipient of much hospitality.
Yes, a lot of hospitality.
Let's talk about that. Is that hard to be the recipient?
It was very hard, because when we first went on the road, when we first started into evangelism, I'm a strange combination of an extroverted introvert, where I love people. I love to be in the midst of people, but then I like to go home and just.
I'm the same way, though. Yes, I get that.
Yeah. So when we first started out, I had to force myself to talk to people. And now I'm to the point where I'll talk to anybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My kids don't like that so much.
But I get that. Yeah, I get that, though.
It was hard sometimes accepting the hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes we had no choice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But
that was
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, if none of us are willing, and I'm speaking to myself, I'm preaching to myself, if none of us are willing, or if it's too hard to accept the hospitality, it can't have it just one way street. There have to be the givers and the receivers, those who show and those who accept. And, that's something our families, learning to grow through.
Yeah.
Grow through. So,
right. That's the first thing I learned when we were on the road, was that I did not know how to receive. Mm-hmm. I didn't have a clue. And I had become so self-sufficient in terms of, not so much in my own little home. I think our family of 5 functions really well as a unit with a good flow and all of that. And there's a lot of give and take and that kind of thing. But when it comes to outside of our house, I realized very quickly that I was extremely uncomfortable with receiving and being on the end of having to receive assistance or help or whatever. And like Laurie said, it was really hard for me to talk to people at first. I was really uncomfortable with it. And here for the extroverted introvert club, because I could talk in front of 5,000 people, but I'd have to go home for a week and not talk to anyone. Do you know what I mean? I need a week to decompress. Yeah. I could do it, but right. But I learned and even now, because technically, we're not on the road, but we do still dwell in the RV.
Right.
And we're still parked somewhere, and we're, as we say in our house, gracias a Dios, we have a little house to live in as well, but it's 500 square feet. It's very tiny. Ultimately, it's our running shower, our flushing toilet, and a stove, which you'll never hear me complain about. So, but we still live with friends on their property, on their farm. There's still that element of having to sort of humble yourself, recognize that you're on someone's space, right? And they don't make us feel that way, but there is sort of this like balance that has to be found, right?
Exactly.
And that has been probably one of the most difficult things, not staying here, but just being able to like accept the fact that really acknowledge my own pride and my own independence, the fierceness of independence, and things that, I've often said God didn't have us move to an RV for any of the reasons that I thought. It's like all the stuff under the surface, and hospitality, the concept of hospitality and receiving it has definitely been at the top of that list, because I can give it all day long, but receiving it made me incredibly uncomfortable.
Right. That's true. And I know for me personally, I guess it's a pride thing. I don't know, but I know that a lot of people can relate, because I brought this up on social media on more than one account, on more than one occasion. And a lot of people say, yes, it's so hard. So is it a pride thing? I don't know. But, so yeah, that's something that, a lot of us have to work through. And, but you know what? Those of us, we three here are, believers in Jesus and Christians, and some of our listeners are not, and that's fine. Everybody is welcome here at our 2,000 plus mile long table. But you know, those, we three ladies, also believe that it is a biblical,
Right.
I want to say command, but to me, it's not a burden,
Right.
you know, because I enjoy showing hospitality so much. So, all right. Well, yeah. What, practically, Laurie, what do you think? Well, let's talk about what you do here.
Okay.
We said we were going to let everybody know where we are. And so can you tell us a little bit about where we are parked here this week, and what you all do here in relation to hospitality?
Okay. We are part of Good Samaritan Ministries in Richmond. It's a 1 year long discipleship program for men with addictions. They come in here addicted to drugs or alcohol or even porn, and they sign themselves in. They can leave at any time. They're free to go. But for a year, they have intensive Bible training and a work program, and they just learn how to get back on their feet and get back out into the world being a productive member of society. For the first 6 months, they live in a dorm and they work 6 days a week. The second 6 months, they get to move to an apartment that we have here on the property, and they continue working, but at 5 days a week. And if they have a wife and children, then they get to move into the apartment with them. They learn to accept responsibility for what they've done and move on with their lives. Now, some of them do fail. We have had a number of guys that have graduated from the program after a year and come back in the next 6 months and have to start all over again.
And it's voluntary. They come because they want to.
Right.
Yes.
Right. It's all voluntary. They can leave whenever they want to. But it's been a joy working here. We've been here for 18 months, and my husband is the chaplain, and we form attachments to these guys.
Oh, I bet.
And now we can't have them into our home because that's considered fraternization. So we can't do that. But there are other ways to show hospitality. Like tomorrow night, we're going to go have dinner with them. We're going to go up to the mess hall and have supper with them.
Yeah.
And our kids are going to play music and sing, and just show the guys that there is a better way, that we love them, even where they're at in the program right now. If they have just come in off the street, we love them because Jesus loves them.
Right. Showing kindness. That's a really good short definition for somebody who says, what are you talking about? What's hospitality? Just showing kindness, don't you think?
Just
and that could be
your life.
sharing your life, showing kindness, whether it's in the South, taking pork and bean, pan of baked beans when grandma passes,
Right.
Taking it to a family, or when the baby's born, or here in Richmond, Virginia, and going up to the mess hall and just joining in with stepping into their world, not world, but their circle, their lives.
Yeah.
So,
they need to know that somebody cares about them, because a lot of these guys come in here with nobody that loves them, nobody that has shown them any kind of kindness.
Yeah. So pretty much you have a good success rate here, though, right?
Yeah. It's very good.
Based on what we've been talking to y'all and seeing. So that's great.
Sometimes we have to show hospitality to people that we don't necessarily want to show hospitality to. I had a situation a few weeks ago where someone had been saying some not very nice things about our family. And my husband came in for lunch one day and he saw a pot of soup cooking on the stove. And he said, "Oh, that looks really good." I said, "It's not for us."
I know where this is going.
He said, "Who's it for?" I said, "You wouldn't believe me, even if I told you." So I told him who it was for. I said, "The Lord told me to do it. So I'm doing it." Yeah. And now I did embarrassingly walk around kind of pouting that, "God, why'd you tell me to do this? I don't want to do this." But I loaded it up and I took it to her, and because she was going through some trouble with one of her teenagers. And I said, "I thought maybe you could use a break." And she said, "Oh, you have no idea. I have 3 different places to be tonight, and I wasn't going to have time to cook. And I really appreciate this."
I love that.
And that's what it's all about. And that reminds me of my sister. Before we left Tennessee, she lived right down the road from where we were, but she texted, "Can you use a pot of so-and-so soup tonight?" And I was like, oh my word. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Cause I had this going and that going and trying to pack and move and load up and didn't have a kitchen. And so that was just, hospitality can be simple or complicated.
Right.
And, I used to have, this is embarrassing because I exasperated my family, but I would see how many dinner parties, fancy sit down with silverware and the whole bit, china, I could have every holiday season. How many people could I have in my home? But honestly, I did it because I loved it so. I loved cooking. I loved menu planning and meal planning and cooking and so forth. But it was just absolutely ridiculous that I tried to do that much and wore my family out, poor things. But so, you can go too far and forget what's important in your own little circle, your own little home, and your own little world. But,
absolutely. And I think sometimes the things that God asks us to do that we're uncomfortable with are usually the ones that bear the sweetest fruit, for one. Yes. And for two, I think, to touch on what you were saying, Katie, what's happening there a lot of the time with us, especially those of us that really do enjoy cooking and presenting and setting that, we're planners and vision driven and whatever. It can very easily become our identity. I'm the one who does this dinner. I'm the one who makes this dish. I'm known for this and that. And I think that's why, at least for me, I can't speak for you, Katie, and I wouldn't do that. But for me, I think that's part of the reason why it was so difficult initially in the RV, is because I had created this identity outside of what my identity should be. And when it was stripped of me, for a moment, I kind of just didn't know who I was. So just to expand a little bit on the whole concept of taking it in a direction that it doesn't need to go, I read one time that hospitality isn't about how it makes you look. It's how someone feels when they leave. And it's so important to keep that, but it's also so hard when it's something you're passionate about to not make it a part of you that can start to, drive things. But I love the story of the soup, Laurie, because like I said, I do think the things that God asks us to do that are, that feel like a little bit of a bitter pill to swallow.
Yes.
End up being the sweetest, God, it's just such an example of God taking something that's sour and making it sweet. It's just amazing to watch. And hospitality, beyond being, like a mandate, I think it's really important to recognize too that it's considered a gift. It's a spiritual gift. And it's so important to recognize, like I didn't know that. I didn't realize that until about 4 or 5 years ago when I was reading and reading the Bible. And I was like, wait a minute, this is a big deal. This is not just, oh, I like to cook for people. This is ministry. This is so super important. And so, keeping that focus on like what God is actually trying to do with it can be tricky, but it's so fruitful.
That's true. And I would like Andrea and Laurie to point out, like I mentioned a minute ago, some of our listeners may not be the same faith that we are, and that's fine. And so I'd like to ask the question that they may be asking, what does this have to do with me? And is this something I should be thinking about, and why? And I would propose that hospitality is just a grassroots, goodwill, human gesture. Right. And those who are interested in things other than faith, but maybe they're interested in unity, maybe they're interested in community or building community of whatever kind. It boils down to hospitality is the answer, right? Because I know all three of us are interested in feeding people and having people around our homes and sharing recipes and, or around our tables rather, having people around our tables, sharing recipes, that all kinds of things. And the act of what we're referring to here is just great, bridge builders.
Right.
And
I like that.
Unity builder, no matter what race or ethnicity or belief or faith or anything.
Right.
So, so why should anyone care? It's just a matter of just goodwill, human kindness, or human goodwill. Yeah.
Right. It's a matter of recognizing basic humanity in everyone.
Yes.
And basic human need. And sometimes those needs are just as simple as food and drink. And sometimes it's a matter of spiritual, emotional, mental refreshment. It's not just, I may have you over and have instant hot coffee and have nothing special to offer you, but saltine crackers with peanut butter, right? So it's not about, I brought out my pretty milk glass or my china or my good silverware all the time. It's about, I'm recognizing, I'm offering you the best of what I have, regardless of what it is. I'm telling you, ladies, I'm 2 days out from grocery day. I promise you, if you came to my house right now, it is stale cornbread and beans in the fridge, right? That's where we are right now. And that's what I would have to offer you. But my heart's intent and my purpose for doing that is so much more about the refreshment of your spirit, of your heart, of your mind, of your emotions, of your whatever, than it is at this point in my life. As much as I love to feed you good food, the heart, the intention of the heart is really so much more. And that's such a shift that's taken place in me, because for so long it's been the other way around. But it's not just taking place. It's not just food and drink. It's what you're doing for that person's heart that's so super powerful. And it is a matter of recognizing your own humanity and the humanity of another person, regardless of what you have in common or don't. Because really, that at the core, that's what we all have in common. We're all children of God, and He loves us all the same. And He hears. I had a thought this morning. This is kind of off topic, but I did have a thought this morning as I was praying. And I have a tendency to switch between English and Spanish, just because we've been practicing Spanish so much that my brain goes back and forth. And I just giggled because I said, God, I'm so glad that no matter what language is spoken to you, you hear it and you value it, and it doesn't faze you for a moment. And I thought that's so, we have so much to learn from that. So yeah, it isn't about who you are, where you come from, any of that. It's like God hears all our prayers in the same way. He hears us all. And if we could hear each other the same way, right? And I'm using that as an example of our differences, not necessarily the language we speak. Because clearly, if someone came up to me speaking French, I would have absolutely no idea what they were trying to say to me. But I would definitely offer them my stale cornbread and beans too. I'm just saying, like, everyone is welcome to take place. Right. You know, we always, like, our family slogan is "There's always room at our table," and we mean that. You know.
Yeah. I think what scares a lot of people off with hospitality is that they don't have a lot to offer. But like you said, stale cornbread and beans, or a cup of tea and a slice of bread, or, you know, whatever. it's just opening your home, opening your table, and inviting people
exactly.
in. And
100%.
that's scary sometimes.
Also that.
It is scary. And I would like to encourage the person, because a lot of people have said to me, because we're traveling around the nation and we don't want to intimidate anybody, but we're also interested in meeting as many of our social media friends as possible. Not necessarily in their homes, but at a park or at McDonald's or wherever. We wouldn't dare want to intimidate anybody or make them feel uncomfortable. But I just want to share a little story of something I learned. I learned a hard lesson one time, and I do have got this written on my blog somewhere on our Heritage Ways website. But, I used to think that mistakenly, I used to think my house had to be perfect and everything just had to be tip top and just not a hair on the floor and I'm ashamedly, I used to believe that. And like I said, I would drive my family insane before we would have company, just, reline the drawer, something ridiculous even. And, I would do all my laundry. Which, why? That's crazy. But anyway, that's how I was. And I guess that's a lot of that is pride and wanted to put my best 2 feet forward. But I was at someone's house whom I love dearly. And it's just in the past 10 or so years. And this family is just famous, just well known for not famous, but they're well known for hospitality and hosting people and having parties and events and casual and formal and relaxed. And I was in their home and I realized, I looked down in their kitchen and there was, and I say this because I'm very thrilled that I saw this, the largest dust bunny I'd ever seen. And I thought, hallelujah, praise the Lord. And it's like the Lord hit me with a 2x4 upside my head, because I sat back and thought, wait a minute, look at everybody laughing and having a great time. And the hostess was relaxed. And I almost wept right then and there at the lesson I was being taught. And from that, it gives me chill bumps now to say it, because from that point forward, I did not stress at all about what my house looked like. And it was a major turning point in my life. I'm so thankful that hostess didn't clean her house to the nth degree before we got there, because I needed to learn that lesson. And so that was a turning point. And I would never say who the person is, because I would never want to embarrass them. But I mean this in high regard. It just really taught me a big lesson. So I'd like to say to the person, the lady, the gentleman, or the family who thinks, oh, my house is tiny, or my house is whatever, or my house is not immaculate, or my house is this, that, or the other. It is about attitude. It's about putting people at ease, but you have to start with yourself as the hostess and the host. You have to not be all uptight like I was during those many years when I was fanatical about it. And so it's more about attitude, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not about having the perfect. I've had people to say to us, no, I don't want you to come because I don't have the perfect so-and-so. And that breaks my heart, because I would not want to lead someone to believe that they have to have X, Y, or Z before they can have anyone in their homes. So I just want to encourage those who feel like their circumstances or environment is inadequate, because it's about your heart and your attitude.
Right. And your intentions.
Yeah.
Is your intention to honor them in your home or not?
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I want to jump on the one thing you said at the end there. One thing that I've noticed is there's a reluctancy, and this is going to sound prideful, but hear me out. There's a reluctancy of people in my life, typically, that they don't want to cook for me, or they make excuses about their food. they'll say, oh, well, I want to have you over, but I can't cook it like you did, or I want to make such and such, but I'm sure it's not as good as yours, which is not always true. Believe me, I have a lot of flops in the kitchen. I just put the good ones on Instagram. So I think people, and the other thing is that I have gone so over the top in the past with people coming over and making and spinning, just like you said, just like killing myself, making things perfect for them, that it actually created like a false reality, where people felt like they couldn't have me over in return because they weren't going to make pretty little appetizers and stack them on trays. And do you know what I'm saying? Like make a cute drink and whatever. Like, and I did it because I enjoyed it, but I didn't realize that in the process, I was actually kind of discouraging them, which is not my intention whatsoever. But it's interesting because there's a time and place for that. I think it's fun sometimes to have like an elaborate meal and really go all out to spoil someone and make someone the finest of what you can, whatever that may be, whether it be grilled cheese or, you know, boeuf bourguignon, whatever. But it's interesting how it did create this reluctancy. There's not a lot of people in my life that will offer to cook for me. And it's, again, that sounds really arrogant, but I don't mean it that way at all. I just mean that I think in my pursuit of creating something beautiful and wonderful for them, it's sort of backfired in a way, because these are people who make great food and I love to eat with them and I love to sit at their table. And frankly, you could make me frozen fish sticks. And if I'm hanging out with you and I didn't have to cook it, I'm stoked. Like I'm happy. I just love food and I love spending time with you. So I don't care. But I didn't realize that I was creating this, like almost creating a divide without intending to. And I'm not saying, again, that if you do all those things that you're creating a divide. I'm just simply saying that there's an importance, I think, of just having those very relatable, sort of humble, low-key, casual sort of appointments with people, right, around the table of the stale cornbread and beans.
I agree with you, and I can relate. And I don't feel like you're being arrogant because I can relate. I mean, I used to have my own catering business. I wasn't a big deal, but I was a one-woman show with a husband who helped, did what she said, bless. Yes, I've been cooking for 40 something years of my life, but I have a lot to learn, a lot I want to learn, and about cooking and food and I've had the same experience, Andrea, and I'm only bringing this up and echoing what you said because I want to encourage folks in this area as well, because yes, cooking is my thing. The end. We can all go home. You know, cooking's my thing.
Right. I get that. Yeah.
Sewing is not my thing. You know, reading is not my, but cooking is my thing and I enjoy it. But if I'm down with the flu, and this really did happen, and my family is flailing because they don't know what to do in the kitchen. And 2 weeks later, a friend or an acquaintance from church or whatever said, well, I didn't bring you food because I know you're such a good cook. Well, no, ma'am, I'm not a good cook when I'm lying in bed and can barely raise it's Stouffer's lean cuisine is very, very, loved in our home. Yeah. And their favorite is Stouffer's macaroni and cheese, of all things. Oh, I've just told the world. And so I would love to encourage people to not be, I guess you'd say, intimidated by folks you think are just great cooks, because like you said, fish sticks, yes. And this girl right here, I go out and buy fish sticks and I cook them for my family. Yeah. But yes, please, friends out there, don't be intimidated by, if somebody, I'll tell you what, the most comfortable I've been in relation to this topic is when I go into someone's home, and this has happened many times, and especially lately and traveling around, is when people don't apologize. Because I have had that, I'm not as good a cook as you. Yeah. And that makes me very uncomfortable. Right. But when I go in and they have served and just served whatever they had. And by the way, everything's always been delicious anywhere we've ever been. And that makes me, the guest, the recipient of the hospitality, more comfortable as well. It does make us uncomfortable, Andrea, if somebody says, I can't bring you food. And I'm thinking, please, please go to Kroger, to the frozen food section, and bring us a frozen lasagna or what have you. And we would be very thankful for that.
Right.
So don't be hesitant. To serve anybody.
I think there's a big message here, which is, and, to kind of bring it full circle, that hospitality isn't this, simple concept. We've made it the Martha Stewart concept. We've made it like the Pinterest concept, that hospitality has an aesthetic, and that it's this simple thing that if you do it this way, you're doing it right. And ultimately, it's a pretty complicated sort of concept that really, it's obviously been overcomplicated in a lot of ways, but there's a lot of little fine details and things that are, you want to personalize it to the person, and you want to do the thing for the person that is helpful to them and is of service to them. And it's not about Pinterest or Martha Stewart or Pioneer Woman or whatever we want to reference that we think is a beautiful aesthetic. It's really just about serving the person right where they are, and thinking deeply with our hearts, and not just envisioning something that's pretty, right?
Right. Filling the person's need.
Right.
And that may be a nice fancy steak dinner at some point, but it may be a Stouffer's Lean Cuisine macaroni and cheese or whatever.
Yeah. Not
Lean Cuisine. What is it? Stouffer's macaroni and cheese. Yeah. But just filling their need. But so I asked Laurie last night, did you have a recipe that you have pulled out time and time again, or more than one recipe you could share with us?
I do.
Now, we've got, we laugh, Andrea, and say that our friends out there, y'all pull out your Casseroles and Tacos cookbook, which is a spiral notebook that we encourage folks.
We're big timing it over here, folks.
Yes, we are. But maybe Laurie could share. That'd be okay, Andrea, if Laurie shares one of her tried and true recipes that she's used through the years.
I would love that.
You can tell by looking
I'm
at
envying this. I'm looking at this.
Yeah.
It's stained with lots of love.
Yes.
Love that.
Well, let's see. How old was I? Many years ago, probably 15 years ago. We lived in the little town of Washington, Pennsylvania, and we rented a little house from two little old Italian ladies.
Mm.
They had never married. They stayed home to take care of their papa and never married. And you talk about hospitality. Those ladies brought us food all the time. She would call me and she'd say, "Laurie, would you like some pasta fazool?" Is how she said it. And I'd say, "Oh, yes. Would you like some?" I don't even remember what it was called. It was roast beef stuffed with garlic. And
yum.
Oh, it was delicious.
Yeah.
And
doesn't even need a name. Just bring it up.
Rigatoni and wedding soup and all kinds of things. Well, she had made us scalloped potatoes one night. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Well, yes, I will take your scalloped potatoes." And then she gave me the recipe. So here's the recipe for scalloped potatoes by Sally Aloya. Her name was Sarah Elizabeth.
Oh.
Miss Katie Elizabeth.
Sarah, yeah, that's right.
Okay, so you need 3 tablespoons butter, 2 tablespoons flour, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 1/8 teaspoon of pepper, 3 cups of milk, 6 medium potatoes sliced very thin, and 2 tablespoons chopped onion. Now, when I would make it, I added extra onion because we love onion. Mm-hmm. And I would usually double the recipe because we had so many kids at home. First, you make a white sauce out of the first 5 ingredients. And then you place half the potatoes in a greased 2-quart casserole dish. Cover it with half the onion and half the sauce. And then repeat the layers. And cover it and bake at 350 for about an hour. Uncover and bake for 30 minutes longer, and it serves 4 to 6 people. And let me tell you, delicious scalloped potatoes.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
I like potatoes in any form, but that sounds great. Yeah. That sounds great.
It sounds like I want to eat that
funny
right
story
now.
about those.
Oh, I know. Yes.
Those two old ladies, every year they would go to a hog roast. Their nephew would put on a hog roast. So one day she called me and she said, "Do you want some pork from this hog roast that we went to?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I'll be right up." So I took my pan to go get some pork, and I walked in, and in the middle of the dining room table is this hog head, the whole head of that pig.
And that's what she was going to give you?
Yeah, they were picking the meat off of the head, and then later they were going to boil that head down and make head cheese.
Head cheese,
right?
Yeah, which my father loved. And
yes,
I would not touch.
Yes, I think Andrea and I have talked about head cheese before. I don't remember if it was on a podcast. Was it on a podcast or not? I don't remember.
I think it was.
But yeah.
I'm just saying we've got to be the only podcast in the world that has talked about head cheese more than once. Like
more than once. I know. I
love that.
I've just never eaten it. I'm not planning to. Sorry.
No.
So is the meat off of a hog head good?
It was just the same as off the rest of the pig. Yeah, it was really.
You know, they say that nothing is wasted but the oink.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know. So yeah, there's can't be a lot of meat on the head of the pig.
I think she gave me some meat from the rest of the pig too, but there was some.
Okay, was it delicious? Roasted?
Yes, very delicious.
So it wasn't smoked. I mean, is it like over a spit? Is that what you're talking about?
They would dig a hole in the ground and build a fire there.
Okay.
Oh, mercy.
Bury the hog. Yeah, it was delicious.
This is in Pennsylvania?
Yes.
I've seen that in Hawaii, but yeah. All
that's
right.
how
Well, that's
Mexicans
interesting.
do cow heads too, in the ground. Yeah.
Really?
Best tacos I ever had in my whole life were deep pitted cow head from the meat from the cheeks, the cheek meat. Cachetes is the best taco I've ever eaten in my whole life. Yep. So when you're saying that, I'm like, you said she brought the head. I giggled because I like that. I don't know. Pig head is not common here, but cow head is very common, and goat heads too. And it's a prized thing. It's like if you're celebrating, you put a cow head in the ground. So I could see how her bringing you the pig head would be a really beautiful offering from them. I think that's really super sweet.
There you go. See, Laurie, you got a beautiful offering of that's neat.
I also want to say real quick that Laurie has a recipe on my blog that you guys have to go read the story behind. So if you go to oursupperstories.com, I'll put the link in my profile the day that for the day we post this podcast. I'll put the link in my profile and you guys go find it because it's a sweet story and a delicious recipe and you got to go check it out. So I want to throw that in there too. You're getting 2 recipes from Laurie today.
Yeah, that's great. They can write that down. And just remember, folks, it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to have a spotless house. You know, the most comfortable I have been, like I said a while ago, but I can think of a particular instance in my head. I was so comfortable in this person's home with a bowl of lentil stew, and it was simple. And I mean that in just the most precious way. It was simple. It was delicious. No pretense. And I just, I was having to keep from crying because I was so comfortable. Yeah. And it just felt like a hug from, some long lost grandma or something. Yeah. And, so simplicity and hospitality, there's a lot to say about how those go hand in hand when you're really wanting to get to the nitty gritty and the root of making somebody feel comfortable and welcome.
If you make it too complicated, you won't do it. You'll do it one time and say, that was way too hard. I'm not doing that again.
And I don't know that they'll leave feeling hugged.
Right.
Yeah, welcome. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So take it from somebody who's made a lot of mistakes in that department. But anyway, so Laurie, y'all have shown great hospitality to us, and
It's
you've
our pleasure.
allowed us a place to park, which we're so thankful for God's provision.
Yeah.
And we look forward, our family looks forward. Andrea, we're going to go over to the mess hall. Is that what y'all call it, Laurie? Tomorrow
Fellowship
night?
hall, mess
Fellowship
hall.
hall, the cafeteria, whatever
Yes,
they call it.
whatever.
And meet up with the residents
Yes.
here. And tomorrow night, and hear Laurie's family sing. And can you tell us real quickly how anybody can learn more about your family
sure.
and what y'all do as far as
Sure.
your singing and CDs?
Well, on my Instagram, live.love.sing 2011, I have a link in my profile for Good Samaritan Ministries. And my husband has an Instagram and a Facebook that is S.L. Rogers Ministries, which is our the kids singing. We do gospel bluegrass. So yeah, just check us out on Instagram or Facebook. Good. If you go on Facebook, I guess it's going to be the Stanley Rogers family.
Good.
That's awesome.
That'll be great.
I love it.
From there, if they wanted to, they could buy your CDs, right?
Right.
And then, so that's good. But yeah, well, we're glad you were here with us today.
Thanks.
This is exciting.
Fun.
Okay, Andrew, I got to throw the little fun fact in before we forget. I don't want to hang up, and because we joke and say Laurie is the and in casseroles and tacos. Because I met you through her,
right,
Andrea.
Yeah.
So, because for somehow I don't remember the details, but you all were social media friends, and I met you through her. So we joke and say she's the and.
I love that.
Is it the Instant Pot winner?
I think I tagged you and said
you might have
this contest,
and I won the Instant Pot giveaway.
Yeah.
So from Andrea and Art. So
I love that.
That's fun. So we're happy to have the and here today.
Yeah.
Me, yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited. It would only be better if I was sitting there with you. But
I know.
But I love that we're able to have a chat.
I know. But hey, technology, and we're very thankful.
Yes.
We're thankful for all of our friends who have joined in today and listened in. And we would love to hear your thoughts on hospitality and how you show hospitality to others. And, we're on Instagram at Casseroles and Tacos. And then we have the website, casserolesandtacos.com. But I guess the best way for them to communicate, right, Andrea, would be comments on our Instagram page. Would that be right?
I would say that Instagram is definitely the most thriving part of our community. That's where all the good conversation takes place. You can find us on YouTube also. So if you don't want to listen to us on Podbean, you can also listen to us on YouTube. So we're over there. We're trying to find as many ways to connect with you guys as possible so that we can walk this crazy journey together. So definitely join us over on Instagram at Casseroles and Tacos and hop in on the conversation. Like Katie said, give us your ideas and thoughts on hospitality. Would love to hear any of your thoughts, feelings, testimonies, whatever you've got, good stories. And we want to thank Laurie again. Thank you so much for joining us, Laurie. We're so glad that you were here. And we hope that this conversation reminds you guys that it's not about how fancy something is, that it's all about love being the best ingredient. So thanks for joining us, and we look forward to catching you next time. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.